wanted to show you something I managed to hack last night. I got myself out my Canon 7D. So this is an original 7D. It's old, it's 10 years old. Attached to that, I have a 70-200 and I have a teleconverter. So I took this equipment, I put it on a tripod, then plugged in via the USB connection on here. I installed the Canon EOS software. I pulled out of the camera the live view. Why did I do that? Well, for the last few nights I've noticed Jupiter and Saturn have been really clear in the sky, very two bright points of light, and I wondered if I could see them any closer. So I started first of all with some binoculars. You know, you couldn't really see it if you rested your hand on something solid, you could actually see the 4 moons, Galilean moons of Jupiter. I tried to take a photo, but obviously I couldn't really see because there's too much movement. So I was like, how can I take a photo of it? And you know, because there's too much rotation of the Earth, it's blurring. Put it into the computer and then recorded the screen. Pretty much anyone can do this if they know or if they have a long zoom lens. Fundamentally, this is what I managed. Okay, so this point of view here, what we're actually looking at here is Jupiter, which is very bright, and you can just see 4 Galilean moons. Now, I turned down the exposure and fiddled with the f-stop and also the ISO, because I can do that live on the computer screen. And what you actually start to see here is a close-up. So I've got a 200 zoom on the lens. It didn't really work particularly well when I switched to the wide view. But what I've got here is a close-up view of Jupiter. Now you can see very clearly, when it zoomed, let me zoom back in again, you can see very clearly the rings, or sort of the dark lines on Jupiter's surface there, or remember it's a gas giant. So that's really interesting, and I managed to resolve that basically at home out the window because the light's particularly clear. Now, to the left of Jupiter was Saturn. So I zoomed in, moved the camera around and tried to find Saturn. Now, Saturn was a bit harder because it's a little bit smaller to see, but fundamentally, I managed to get a picture of Saturn as well. Now, this is pretty exceptional. I've never done this in my life. This is the very first time. And if you look close in here, you can see very clearly, well, not very clearly, but fairly clearly, you can definitely see 2 particular parts of Saturn. You can see the center gas giant and you can see its distinct rings. Now, obviously because of the rotation of the Earth, I had to keep moving or tracking it. Now my tripod does not track, so I had to move it along on its own. And if you look here, I've zoomed right in now, and you can see distinctly the rings of Saturn and the center gas planet part. Now, I've done that with a Canon EOS 7D. Now, if you zoom right out, that's what you actually see in the full frame. So I zoom back in just to show you. I tried to fit it to the full screen, but it didn't particularly work that well. See, that's what it would look like in 200% mode, full screen. Didn't work, so I zoomed back in again, and I'm going to zoom right in now for you. I've zoomed the video right in, and magnification is I mean, basically what we've got going on, we've got 200% of the sensor on a 300, on essentially a 400mm lens set up on 35mm. And there we go, there is Saturn up close. Generally speaking, Saturn is the more interesting of the two to look at because you have those rings. If I had an even bigger lens with an even bigger resolving power, it would be, or maybe even a camera with a greater sensor resolution, maybe we could get even more detail out. But one thing very important to notice, it's very important to try and keep the planet in the center of the frame on the camera, because you can see the lens weaknesses as it gets towards the edge of the frame. And so you have to have the right f-stop, and I found around 5.6 gave me about the best sharpness I could get. But yeah, anyway, so there we go. I just thought I'd show you guys. This is super interesting, super amazing, and we live in a big universe that maybe is a little bit bigger than just e-bikes. So there we go. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.